The Building Brands Marketing Podcast is dedicated to exploring the journeys of industry leaders who have successfully built a brand. Join me, Robert Royer, president of Building Brands Marketing, and an entrepreneur who's successfully scaled multiple brands as we dive deep into the strategies, challenges, and insights that have shaped the success of industry leaders and provide you with the resources you need to do the same. Building Brands Marketing is a full-service marketing agency specializing in crafting customized marketing strategies for service-based businesses with a creative powerhouse to drive real results. Welcome to the Building Brands Podcast. Welcome to the Building Brands Podcast. We're continuing with our Legal Leaders series today. Today we have a special guest, Laura Fidelie, attorney and owner of the law office of Laura W. Fidelie in Wichita Falls, Texas. Sorry. Welcome, Laura. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks, Robert. It's good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to speak with you today. I know in kind of looking through your background of building your brand and then talking with you, there's some really useful nuggets there. So let's just kick it off by the easiest question. What makes the law office of Laura Fidelie unique?
You know, what we really try to do is work with our clients on moving forward in their lives. We're a family law practice, so I'm dealing primarily with divorces and custody suits. And what I really think that we do differently is try to work with these families on seeing where they are right now and where they want to go in the future and helping them get there in the most efficient way possible and to end up with the best outcome for themselves and for their families.
Very neat, very neat. I know in talking with you, you had something that was interesting in our kind of prep discussion, getting to know each other. You emphasize really helping people to find the right fit with their legal representation. How do you approach guiding potential clients toward the right attorney, even if it's not you?
Yeah, you're right. It's not always me. And what I try to talk to clients about is when we're dealing with family law matters, I'm not dealing with your real estate or a business entity. I'm dealing with your family. I'm dealing with your children. I'm dealing with your finances, with the things that really comprise your life. And I think that it's very important for the client to be incredibly comfortable with the person that they choose to represent them. And before they hire me, I want to have a very long conversation with them about where do you see us at the end of this case, and what are your case objectives, and what's important to you in moving toward those case objectives. And I want that person to be aligned with the way I practice law. Because if I'm not the right fit for them, I think it's better that we know up front so that I can send them to a colleague who may be a better fit for them. So that's something that I really try to do when I'm meeting with prospective clients.
Very neat. That's interesting, Laura. So let's take it back to square one. What inspired you to start your firm, and how did you develop your brand identity?
So I actually became a divorce attorney kind of by accident. I graduated from law school in 2007, but I did not practice for a while. I was married and was just working on some other things. And then about 9 years later, I got divorced and I needed to start earning some more money. And so I tried a few different avenues. I got on some court appointment lists, and family law was what really worked for me. I started out on the CPS appointment list, and then just my office kind of grew from there. And now we're a full-scale family law firm. And, just kind of, I had a family law issue and needed to move forward from there. And that was really what inspired me to build my office and to try to help clients who were on a similar journey.
Very neat. So talk to me a little bit about some of those specialties of family law. If I understand it right, you really specialize in the military segment of family law. Is that correct?
Well, so when we're talking about family law, 90% of what I'm doing is child custody and divorce cases. There's a few other kind of odds and ends, prenuptial agreements, adoptions, things like that. But the vast majority of what I do is divorces and custody suits. I happen to be in an area where there is a very large military population. We have an Air Force base where I live. It's a training base. We also have a NATO population. So I have a lot of younger people who are training with the military, and then some international populations as well. And so just the population that's in the area where I live has a lot of military there. So I do end up doing a lot of military cases and representing both service members and their families in divorce and custody proceedings.
Yeah, that's interesting. I almost forgot. I have to stay away from the word specializes, when talking to lawyers, that enters into sometimes a gray area of regulations and nuances with bar
Sure.
compliance and all that stuff. So my apologies. Is there any specific strategies that you use working with some of your military related clients to navigate some of the complexities of, military family law scenarios?
I think that wherever you end up practicing law, there's going to be some just some situations that are unique to that area. And so when you do live in a community with a large military population, just because of the population you serve, you have to learn how that area of the law works. And there are some special things that are unique to military cases. For example, I may have a family who had a divorce decree entered, say in Indiana, and then one of the parties ends up in Wichita Falls, Texas, and they need to have that order modified. And so we have to decide, is Texas the appropriate case to have jurisdiction over that case, or is it back in Indiana? Or is it possibly where the other parent lives? There are some statutes that govern that. Dealing with military retirement, that's an asset that has to be divided in a divorce. And so you really have to know what you're doing and some of the nuances of getting that divided. And then there are just some issues that military families face that civilian families really don't. A lot of them are in Wichita Falls, Texas, not because they have any ties to this state, but because this is where the government told them to go. And so they start divorce proceedings or a custody suit, and they weren't expecting to be subject to the jurisdiction of the state of Texas, but here we are. And so working with them on that, just being sensitive to those situations and trying to meet them where they are and help them move forward in those cases is very rewarding.
Absolutely. Well, let's take it back to the brand, right? Building
Yeah.
Brands podcast. What were the biggest challenges that you faced in building your brand, uh, either your personal brand or the corporate brand of the firm?
They're sort of one and the same since I'm a true solopreneur. I mean,
Sure.
my law office is my name, and starting a law firm is very challenging. You have to find the right people to work with you. You have to find out who is the clientele that you want to serve and that wants to work with you. You have to build a reputation. Your reputation as an attorney is tremendously important. And so just getting that started, it's a lot at first, and just taking it one step at a time is really important. But it's something that really does take some time, and I'm very proud of the brand I've built. I work with fantastic people, and I think that we have a really good idea of who we're a good fit for and who we can best serve in the family law arena.
Got it. Got it. And what marketing strategies have been the most effective in growing your firm and establishing brand recognition in your market?
When I first started, we did some more formal marketing, I'll say, some ad campaigns and social media and that kind of thing. But where I am right now, the vast majority of attorneys are hired based on word of mouth. If I'm going through a divorce, or if I need to hire somebody to represent me in a real estate proceeding, I'm probably not going to go looking online. I'm probably going to ask my buddy, hey, you went through a divorce a couple of years ago. Who was your attorney? Did you like them? Did they have a good approach for you? Would you use them again? And I would say well over 90% of my clients at this point are just referrals, word of mouth. And so, I take a lot of pride in the brand that I've built, and that people are pleased with the way that I represent them and the job that my team does, and that they want to recommend us to other people. So
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. We work with a lot of law firms here at Building Brands Marketing,
mhm.
and it's interesting because you're absolutely right that word of mouth or social proof is one of the primary, driving factors of new leads in the attorney business. Since word of mouth is your primary driver of business, is there any intentional efforts that you take to foster strong referral relationships within your community to reinforce that?
So when I was a very, very young attorney, a mentor told me that it takes years to build a reputation, but it takes 1 second to lose it. And he was absolutely correct. And I think that what is so important in fostering those referrals is that you always have to be conscious of how am I representing my client? How am I being perceived by the court? How am I being perceived by other attorneys? It's really important to me that when I walk into a courtroom, the judge knows that I'm selective about the clients I take. I'm selective about the types of cases I choose to pursue. And I'm not going to put something in that judge's courtroom that is not supported by the facts or by the law in the state of Texas. Likewise, it's very important to me that other attorneys know that if I tell them something, it's the truth and they don't have a reason to question that. And I think that really spills over into the client relationship. They hire you based on that reputation. And that's something that I've worked very, very hard to achieve.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And we've seen a lot of two primary methods that we've seen a lot of law firms use to reinforce that referral structure in the community from both prospective clients, but also other attorneys. The first thing is content or leadership content that people develop, whether it's through the form of blogs, podcasts like
Mhm.
this, resources, not just for prospective clients, but also just as useful for other attorneys to read and gain understanding that, hey, I'm the expert in this space. I'm the expert in this region. I understand because, especially in Texas, there is a lot of regional law. There's different quirks and
Mhm.
nuances from region to region, depending on the types of judges, the demographics locally, all these sort of parameters. And so that thought leadership content really reinforces, hey, I'm the expert in my subsidiary area of law. But then the second component on the consumer side is taking that word of mouth referral tactic to the next level by automating a lot of the review requests, building review automation systems where when a client is offboarded, there's a automated sequence of communication via text and email where, hey, you pick which, sometimes you might identify like the clients to send the reviews to or the review request to, but a series of automated communication requests in those reviews to be sure that we've done our due diligence to make that ask. And then by that same very token, if we're continuing to publish thought leadership content and useful resources, useful valuable content to people, they will stay on our
Mhm.
communication list, whether that's an email newsletter or whatever. So that way eventually, if someone they know that's close to them is also in need of the services, we are still top of mind, even if it's 5 years, 7 years, 9 years later down the road. And we've seen those kind of two pillars influencing the consumer journey as well as the B2B referral journey as well. But uh, I love it. It's very, very a very critical piece to the marketing formula, especially for private practice law firms. Social proof is like right up there with the top of the priorities. But let's segue a little bit. On the
Mhm.
same lines of branding, talking about brand messaging across different platforms and customer interactions, how do you ensure consistent brand messaging all the way across the board, whether it's through public facing channels, social media, website, et cetera, or just more informal, casual in the community conversations?
I think the answer to that is pretty simple. I'm the same I'm the same person at work and as I am with my friends, as I am out in the community, and those same principles that I try to embody in my work life, I'm also trying to embody in my personal and in my private life. And I think just being very consistent when whether you're interacting with a judge or a fellow attorney or a client or my CPA or just a friend, I think keeps that message very consistent. And I want people to know who I am, and I want them to know the integrity that's important to me, and the message that I stand for. And I think that is the best way to do that.
Absolutely. I know in my discovery process leading up to this show, I found out a really interesting tidbit connected to this, which is
Mm.
you're writing a book called Moving Forward. Uh,
Yes.
so could you You know, in talking with you, your book moving forward really ties your personal and business journeys together. And how do you see this book playing a role in shaping your brand and attracting the right clients moving forward? Could you elaborate on that?
Absolutely, I'd love to. I was thinking about this, and if I could describe my work and what I want to help people do in 3 words, I would say it's movement, freedom, and peace. And when people come to see me, they're coming to see me because they have a problem and they want me to fix it. And generally, the problem is going to involve some kind of movement. You know, we're in a marriage that's ending. We want to move to a place where, you know, that marriage is in the rear view. There's a child custody issue and things are not good right now. We want to move to a different place. And so I think as the attorney, my job is to get that part of their life resolved for them so that they can move forward. I think one of the biggest issues with litigating family law issues is that when someone's trying to build a new life or start something over, it's very difficult to do if they're tied up in 3 years of backward looking divorce litigation. That's not very productive for anyone, in my opinion. And so I really want to help people move forward in that process so that they can go on to do something that they really feel good about and to put their life in a better place. The other thing that I see in my office is that, particularly in divorces, most of my clients have a pretty good idea of where they want their life to go. Their divorce is not fun. They're not in a great place right now, but they have a vision of where they would like to get to. But it's kind of like they're standing at the base of Mount Everest and they're just looking up and they're going, you know, it is so far up that mountain. I can't ever make it. And so they just sit back down and they don't ever start climbing. And I understand that. I mean, when you look at it in that gigantic mountain climb, it's very overwhelming. But I really want to help people break that journey down and say, you know what, you're right. You probably can't climb that mountain today. Nobody can, but we can take a few steps. So let's think about what would be a few productive steps that you can take today or this week. And then when you look back over the course of a year, you've gone a long way and you're in a much better place than when you started. And so I really want to help people break that journey down and so that they can get that momentum to start that forward movement. And I think that's what's going to lead them to that place of freedom and peace, which is ultimately where I want everyone to go. So I'm very excited about this project and I hope it helps people with that.
Interesting. Very neat. Very neat. And I look forward to seeing that come out. So,
Thank you.
you know, this is the $1 million question. What
Mhm.
advice would you give to entrepreneurs looking to build a strong and lasting brand in today's competitive market, whether attorneys or whether just a general entrepreneur?
You know, I think what's worked well for me and what I would recommend to anyone, when you're starting that business, it's very easy to want to be all things to everyone. And I think that when you try to do that, you never really define who you are and what your brand is. And when you don't define who you are and what your brand is, you really never identify who are you here to serve. And I think that as entrepreneurs, we should value and service should be our primary mission. And we need to think about what value do we add and who are we here to serve? And I think that if people will take some time to really think about that and think about what they bring to the table and who can most benefit from that, that's really going to help that entrepreneur think about what they want to do and where they want to go.
Yeah, I love that. The riches are in the niches, you know, understand your persona and who you're trying to reach
Yeah.
out to. I've seen this commonly with family law firms. They
Mhm.
identify, hey, I'm going to be a mom's family law firm, or I'm going to be a dad's, and in specific markets that, in some cases, ironically, appeals to the people that are not the target persona. Like I
Yeah.
was talking to a family law lawyer in West Texas that specifically markets himself as the dad's family law attorney,
Mhm.
and he said that since he started to do that and brand it in that fashion, he's gotten more cases from mothers because they say, hey, I want
Really?
him. That's the guy that the dads want to hire around here, you see.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting how that can have a trickle down effect as well. I love that,
Mhm.
defining that target persona, owning that target persona and doubling down on that. And there could be even unintentional components to it. This has been
Mhm.
fantastic, Lori. Laura, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
This has been fantastic. You've shared some really useful information today. Uh, with that being said, before we conclude, do you have any final comments you'd like to leave the audience with?
I hope that everybody, something that I have found so interesting about starting this big project is I really wrote it for the people that I'm here to help, which is people who are going through a divorce. But it is so applicable to other areas of life, whether you're starting a business or if you are in a leadership position or, maybe considering a career change. And I hope that everyone will be able to take a little bit of that, see where are they today and how can we take a few small steps to move forward and get where we want to go. So
Perfect. Laura, where can we find you online if we want some more information?
my website is laurafidelielaw.com, and I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. So
Love it. It's been a pleasure, Laura. Thank you for being on the Building Brands podcast as a part of our Legal Leaders series, and really appreciate your time today.
absolutely. Thanks, Robert. It's good visiting with you.